everyone's on my own timeline, and I'm still, I feel like, not at my top, and I'm still going on that timeline and trying to find where my potential can go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Odd Tandem. Our guest today is still not 24 years old, but he has already ridden for the then Jumbo-Visma development team, UAE Emirates for 4 years, and now another huge team, Bull Bora Hansgrohe. So Jens, how is that talk for you today with Finn Fisher-Black?
I love the way how he is still so young, but like so composed and self-assured. And I mean, the way he came back from that almost career-ending crash he had at the age of 19. He is mentally a very, very strong rider. And he got big plans for the season. I could read it in between the lines when we talked to him.
Yeah, he came out of the gates absolutely blazing with great results in the Tour Down Under and the UAE Tour. Now he's taking a little break, getting ready for the Ardennes Classic. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our great conversation with Finn Fisher-Black. Welcome, Finn Fisher-Black, to the Odd Tandem.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Well, you know, we understand that you're just returning from the UAE Tour. So where are you coming to us from today anyway?
From my home in Andorra. I got back in last night. So, I mean, it's not a big time difference, but pretty cooked from the last week. So, just recovering these next couple of days.
Alrighty, before we let you get more recovery, let's start with a series of 4 quick-fire questions. Your favorite sport to watch as a fan?
Well, I'd still have to say cycling. I don't miss a bike race. I watch all of them.
Awesome.
I think I've had a few phases. Like everyone, I had like the F1 phase. Also a little bit a little bit MotoGP. I like watching sport, but the only one I really know anything about is cycling.
Do you know the haka? Can you perform the haka?
I don't know. Like there's a lot of different hakas. Like there's like the All Blacks haka. Even they have quite a few, which I don't know. But I mean, they have some famous ones. But I've never really liked doing hakas because I'm not exactly the haka build, I think. But like I'm not your classic rugby player build going for the haka. I think on them it looks quite good, but on me, I think it would be laughable.
Was Yona Lomu the best athlete ever to walk the earth?
Yeah. I don't even know who that is.
No. I thought all Kiwis would know. He is your national hero rugby player.
Say it again, the name?
Yona Lomu.
See, I don't feel so bad. Jens was making fun of me because I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, so I thought every New Zealand person would know. Okay, then we dropped that.
Wait, maybe I think. I think we have I know John Alomu, but maybe
that's the one. I didn't pronounce it correctly because I don't have the Kiwi accent.
No, I remember now. I'm not a massive rugby fan though, so I don't actually know like the full history.
Would you ever fancy an all-Kiwi World Tour cycling team?
Yeah, I think it could happen. There's an Australian one been hanging around for a while now, so right. I reckon, we got each year we're getting more and more World Tour pros coming through, so I think, could happen down the line.
So you stopped your season in like mid-September last year, and you've been kind of racing a lot already this year. You've raced 18 days. You finished 3rd in the Tour Down Under, 6th in the UAE Tour. Yep. In order to do that, you need to be training quite a bit over the off season. So where did you spend your off season, and how did you what did you do to be so fit so early in the season in the stage races?
I think. Yeah, I didn't have much of like a proper off season. Like I had probably like 3 weeks off the bike, but I do actually. The last few years, I've been doing it quite a nice way. My girlfriend's family has a place. They go every winter to South Africa, to Cape Town. So the last 3 years, I've been going there for like a month with them in November, like when I just start getting back on the bike. And that's kind of like, for me, the perfect time. Like, everyone else is kind of like dogging it out back in their first weeks and after off season in the winter. And I can kind of go back to the summer already and kind of get the good vibes going back into training. And then I come back here basically for training camp in Spain, and then I go straight to New Zealand from there. So I'm quite lucky that I have good weather conditions for my winter training, let's say. But yeah, I think that definitely helps a lot. Also, being back home in New Zealand, it's the only 4 weeks of the year that I get back there. So I think I really like. Yeah, I always find I go well after a block in New Zealand, and I think that definitely helped this year going into January and February races.
You started the season off really well this year, finished third in the GC in the Tour Down Under. Was that the plan? Were you the designated leader for that one, or it just happened to be like that? Or was it your plan already in December to be good at this
Yeah,
race?
it was definitely my plan. We actually we had kind of split the year up into blocks, and this was the first block of my year was from down under and then national championships and UA finishing in UAE tour. So this was like a big focus for me in my first chance to take like leadership. I've never really had leadership in a race before, and it was the first time where we knew like the team was saying, okay, Finn, like you can do your own like GC race here, and like we just see what you can do because it never really had like been in this position. And yeah, down under is always a race I really love to do, and it suits me. So I was really aiming to hit the ground running in this first block, and yeah, with a new team, I think I'm pretty happy looking back at it now. Yeah, with the podium and down under, and national title, and then sixth last week. So I think it's been a really good start with the team, especially in a new environment.
Well, like you, I'm a huge fan of cycling, so I was staying up late and watching the Tour Down Under. I was getting up early and watching the UAE, and gosh, I mean, there were so many races last week. But
Yeah.
I have a question about the Walunga Hill stage in the Tour Down Under this year. Where the heck did you come from with like 500-600 meters to go? I mean, that was pretty impressive. It looked like that group was going to be away, and you almost caught them at the end there. Tell us a little bit about that finale and how your legs felt to come back and basically almost win that stage.
Yeah, I think uh, Willunga is always a super tricky one, and it's because it's such a short effort, and it's always one on the climb. Like it's this 7 minutes of just like craziness and down under that decides pretty much the whole of down under. And yeah, I've been thinking a lot of ways on how to win it, and for me, I have this punch. Even at the end of a 5 to 10 minute effort, I can still do this 30-second kick as if I was fresh. And this is like what I was trying to do there. I couldn't follow the guys when they were just doing like these crazy numbers. Like I was looking down, seeing like 550 watts, and I was thinking, okay, I can't hold this for another 2 or 3 minutes. So I leave the gap and was just thinking, okay, if I can just limit the loss here and see if I can close it in the last 400 meters, And so, I mean, it was a gamble, but in my mind at that time, it was the best chance for me to still win the stage. And I think, it sucks looking back and seeing I was probably only at 2 or 3 bike lengths off it. And maybe if I'd launched a couple of seconds earlier, maybe it would have been a win. But I think that was the way I had to pace it. And if it had worked, it would have been, really, a great way to race the climb. And if it didn't, like it did, then it was also, all I could do on the day.
You had a bunch of good podium finishes in stage races in Oman, Vuelta a Burgos, Alula Tour. Where do you think what is missing? Your TT, the climbing, tactics, team support. What do you think? What is the next step for you? Because you just need things fall in line a little bit, right? For you. What do you think? Where you want to get better? TT, tactics, climbing.
I mean, they're all a bit different. Like like in Burgos and Oman and UAE last week, I missed like the climbing aspect. Like I'm not really a pure climber, so I'm always gonna be on the back foot a little bit there. And like you see in most of those races, I make up time to get in front before the climbs, and then I basically limit the losses on the climb. Down under was a bit different because it was quite close, and in the end, Narvaez was just better. And I think maybe that's just the experience thing. Maybe next year I'll come back and try to go one or two places better, hopefully. And I think that's a race that really suits me. But the other races, like most of the week-long GCs, like for example UAE Tour, I'm always going to be fighting the climbing a bit. So I would say like I want to get better at climbing, but I don't at the same time I don't really, because it takes away from this punt or this kick that I could have that can also win races, So I think like I'm still maybe just learning a bit about myself, learning like how I can win races, and then once I really find it, then I'll just nail into that and go to every race that it suits.
I want to go back to something that you said a little bit earlier on, spending time down in South Africa, going home to New Zealand, racing in Australia, racing Oman. Those are all very warm weather conditions. And now you're back in Andorra. So you said that you're already done with like your first little phase of the season. So what does this adaptation to living in Europe, obviously colder weather, I'm sure there's snow up there in Andorra right now, and is this kind of like your like mini break before you start peaking for the Ardennes Classics?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the way I'm trying to look at it. Like I've closed the door on this first block, and it's very different racing to what's coming up in the next few months. Obviously with the climate is one thing, but also like in UAE Tour last year, there's not one point where you need to worry about like positioning or something, because you've got 7 lanes to do it in the road, and the weather's always good. Like it's not too much adversity in the racing. And I think it's complete contrast to what's coming up, with I got Basque Country and the Ardennes coming up, and they can be some of the toughest conditions and toughest roads. So I think mentally I've kind of closed off this first chapter, and now I change focus a bit and try to really get into the shape for these next races.
So you start back, or your last race before the classics will be the Tour of the Pays Basque of the Basque Country.
Exactly. Yeah.
No pressure, but both Bobby and me are stage winners there. But no pressure, though. No pressure. Just kidding. It's a tough cookie. That race is a tough cookie, but it really, kind of like makes the hair grow on your chest. It really get out of it stronger for the classics. What would be your role in the classics? Like a captain, lieutenant, or free electron? You can choose where you want to go, or you're not allowed to tell us.
Well, I mean, it's clear we have a really strong team.
I know.
Maxime Van Gils coming last year. He's obviously a specialist in the Ardennes. I think he will probably be leading the team. And then, we have myself and also Roger Adria. He's also a good puncher. I think we can be there by his side and also ready if there is an opportunity. Like it's those kind of races that it's almost better to have kind of a two-pronged or attack kind of. So I think for me it's just about being there and being in the final would be the goal. I mean, the last few years I've been helping Tade or Mark in the Ardennes and the classics. So this year it'll be nice to kind of go in with a little bit more of a leadership role. Obviously with a strong couple guys around me.
Very, very well said. I mean, it's hard to believe that you're 23. You started with the Jumbo-Visma, the then Jumbo-Visma development team. Then you went to UAE for 4 years, and now you're at your first year with Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. But how did it start? How did you, from New Zealand, how did you get the attention of a massive development team? They were called Jumbo-Visma. Now they're Visma Lisa Bike. How did you break through? What was that result that got their attention?
I think if I was to put it on a result, would be I was always really into track when I was in a junior, and I broke the IP world record as a junior in my second year in 2019. And yeah, I remember the next day I got an email from the head coach in Visma development. But I mean, I say like I was quite fortunate that I had a mate of mine, George Bennett, who was has kind of been a mentor of mine ever since I was quite young, starting cycling. We grew up, I mean, we're from the same town in New Zealand, quite a small town and small cycling club. So we knew each other, yeah, from since I started cycling. And he was in Visma at the time, and he put me in contact with the head coach there. Yeah, following that record on the track. I think it was validation for him to go like, okay, now maybe Finn's good enough. I can vouch for him. But yeah, I mean, I was really lucky to have George in the team there to give me that contact, and then a few months later, yeah, I was flying to Europe to do some races, some testing with Jumbo-Visma, and did some racing with a junior team that they had a link with, and it all went from there.
Sorry, Ezzy. So you were 17 at the time, racing age 18, when you got that email to come and do the testing in Europe.
Yeah, I would have been 17. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
That is young. A fact that maybe not all of our viewers and listeners know. Your sister, she's a pro
Yeah.
cyclist as well in a moment with Team Lidl Track. Did you follow her footsteps or she followed your footsteps? Or like you just said, independent passes from each other and both ending up in Europe racing now?
It was like, I mean, we were always doing cycling together. Like we started cycling together, and but she took a very different path. She was never really on the track. She did do a bit, but not yeah, like she was always much more into the road, and she went yeah a much more traditional path. She set herself up in the UK and did some racing there, and then moved to Italy herself and did some racing there as well, and you know very like in the continental level of women's cycling, which is quite a tough way to do it, especially financially, especially like five years ago. So she yeah had a very different path. I would say probably a harder one, and yeah, that's why it's just so cool to see that we're both kind of in the world tour now, and she's also yeah she's doing so well as well. So it's yeah it's really cool. It's really special for me as also.
But, looking back a little bit, you started with the Jumbo-Visma development team. And then halfway through the year in 2021, you switched from the development team to UAE. What happened there where you're being developed by one team and then in the middle of the season you're able to switch to another team? What happened there? What was the reasoning for that?
It was yeah, it was a strange one looking back because I mean yeah at the time I was still so young. I would have just turned 19, and yeah, it's a strange one looking back because I it would have made sense to keep going with Visma, but at the time, yeah, I didn't feel like it was my team. I yeah, I was already felt like I was ready to move up, and Visma hadn't offered me that yet. And then yeah, UAE came in and they were really yeah really believed in me, and they wanted to move me up to the world tour, and then after that it was Visma then coming to me saying, yeah, like, okay, now we want to move you up. But it kind of started a whole thing that I'd never been in before, like this negotiating between teams. And I'd found myself, yeah, like, yeah, starting to be in a tricky situation, I guess, between two teams. And in the end, I decided to go with UAE and start my world tour career. And yeah, I think it's a tough one when you're so young and you're presented with like these opportunities, also from at the time the two biggest teams in the world. And yeah, I wasn't really ready for maybe the backlash that I was going to get from leaving a development setup to go to a opposing world tour team. But yeah, I mean, I think I realize now why like people would criticize it. But looking back, I'm content with it. I'm happy with the decision still today. And UAE, those 4 years there were some years I will always look back with good memories. So I'm happy that I went that path, and now obviously I've closed the chapter on UAE and I've come to Red Bull, and I think it's also another chapter, and I'm excited to go on that one as well.
When you then moved to UAE, they were, as you said, world tour. Were you mentally and physically ready, prepared for that? Or you were, holy smokes, they go fast in this world tour? Or were you, this is easy, I got this?
No, absolutely not. I felt so out of my depth. It was like, it was a big shock for sure. My first World Tour race, probably actually one of probably the dirtiest World Tour race you could start on was the what they call it Renewy Tour now. So back then it was Bank Bank Tour. The 7 days in Belgium in September, and I think it was probably the hardest week long stage race to start with, maybe other than Paris. But it was definitely a baptism of fire. I was definitely in the deep end, and I was thinking, what have I got myself into here?
It's so cool to talk to a kid that's gone through that because listen, if you were 19 back when Jens and I was racing, there was no chance that you were going to be on one of these big teams. Maybe one guy every 5 years came straight out of the juniors and into the world tour, but you lived through this, and it seems like it's the new norm, right? Like a junior has to be ready for that phone call, that email. And some of them are just 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old in your case. That's just absolutely mind blowing to me. But since we have the opportunity to talk to someone that went through that, uh, what advice would you give to these young riders that are aspiring to be like you, like Jan Ayuso, like Del Toro, even Tade? He came out and won the Tour of California when he was 19 in 2019 when he was super young. What's the do and what's the don't when you're making that step from the junior straight into the world tour, or maybe just after 1 year as a under 23?
I would say, I think for me, the biggest thing I learned in those few years was that everyone is really on their own timeline. And like, you can't compare with, it's so easy when your first year World Tour, you start to compare with, like, hey, other people my age, other people 1 year older, or now there's one guy coming in younger and he's winning races. And that, for me, I found it out probably, quite the hard way. And within my first 6 months in the World Tour, I broke my leg and then was out for 10 months. So it was kind of, for me to realize then, like, okay, I'm a bit behind now my peers in my age group, but I just I had to trust like everyone's on my own timeline, and I'm still, I feel like, not at my top, and I'm still going on that timeline, and trying to find where my potential can go. And I think that's definitely one that younger riders can get lost in. Like, they come into the world tour and have these maybe expectations they set for themselves or someone set for them, and they don't achieve them in the first year because it is such a big step up from any other level in cycling. And then you can sometimes see them crumble in that. So I think definitely for all the younger guys, just to realize that everyone's on their own timeline.
You touched a little bit on that crash. That was in my questions as well. You broke your femur and you actually did spend time in a wheelchair. So
Yeah.
it was a severe crash, like a serious one. Did that change your approach to cycling? You go, okay, I'm not going to be a sprinter. I don't need more of this. Or you're over and done with that? Or did you change anything after that? And how long did it take you until both legs had the same size again?
I think it hasn't changed too much about me now. Like, now I don't feel, if anything, strong. I feel, if anything, stronger. Like, it, mentally and physically. Um, I mean, it took a long time to come back from that crash. Uh, Physically, not so much. Like I'd say after maybe 6 to 8 months, I was pretty much 100%. But the hardest thing for me was mentally, like being on a bike again and going around a corner and not thinking I'm going to crash, like or being in a peloton again and not breathing up because I think someone's going to crash in front of me or something. And that was kind of just a long process of doing it over and over again. Each race day I started to feel a bit more comfortable, and then to now a few years on where I'm feeling I can maneuver anywhere in the bunch. I can race in any conditions and not really have these worries like I did following that crash.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, if you're a cyclist long enough, you're going to have an issue like that. Not everybody has a broken femur that is out for 8 or 9 months, but it's that mental willpower. It's that desire to get better, that desire to keep going. But that's a hard thing to know when you're so young. Like if you have it in the middle of your career, at the end of your career, you have that support system, you know what to do. But the mental part of it for you young riders these days. Like I said, when we were racing, and if you were super young, you had no real chance of leading a team. But now it seems like it's expected, right? So we've heard a lot about older riders saying, "Oh, these young guys don't respect us anymore. They just want to come in here and take the leadership positions away from us." But I've always wondered, you think about burnout, you think about things like that, but I have to stop thinking about that because so many young riders are coming into the peloton. But I'm curious, Jens, how many years did you do as a professional?
18. 17
18.
was the big teams, 1 year was the small teams.
I did 16. So now that I have you in front of me, I need to ask you, do young riders of your generation want or even are interested in having long careers like that? Or are they like, hey, give me 5 to 8 good years and then I'm a la playa?
I think I've never really asked like the super young guys coming in, but myself, like I mean, I've no intention of stopping. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is already my fifth season pro, so uh, a third of the way if I was going to do 15 years. But I mean, I'd keep going for as long as I could. But I mean, I feel like from the riders that I talked to who have been like retiring the last few years, I feel like what they had told me was kind of like, like whether it's one day you wake up or one year you start to go like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm done, maybe I don't really enjoy it as I did 10 years ago, and I think they kind of were telling me like that day comes and you know when it comes, and maybe you can't foresee that. I guess for as a 20-year-old or me, a 23-year-old, like maybe I go to 30 or 35, or maybe anything can happen, like could just not get another contract or have a crash or something, and so I'm grateful for each year I get. So
Just to make you laugh, I retired at the age of 43. That's 20 more years for you because you're just 23. Imagine that. But
yeah.
on a more serious note, here's unwanted free advice. Make sure you retire on your own terms. Otherwise, you will be unhappy and regret and have this what if for the rest of your life. And it makes you just a little bitter. Really make sure you retire on top. Not as a world champion, but I mean, you retire, okay, I gave everything I had and now my time is done. It makes you happy for the rest of your life. And your life after cycling, it's still very long. So it's important to start that part happy. So now that I almost feel like your dad, I always wonder, back in our days, Bobby would read books and I would play Game Boy. When the race is finished, massage is finished. What do you guys do to kill time in your hotel?
uh there's still a lot of like gaming going on. I remember last well I think it was a couple of weeks ago, um, in Down Under and Cadell's. We I was rooming with Sam Welsford, and he had a Nintendo, like one of the ones you hook up to the TV. And we downloaded a Mario Kart, and we non-stop played this every single night for about 2 or 3 hours, just screaming at the TV because you can split like four ways. We just had four guys in the room just playing this Mario Kart for like every night for 3 weeks. That was a good one. But I mean, it depends who you get in the room, I guess. Like if it's someone you get along well with, then I'm often just chatting or yeah, there is a lot of just being on the phone, to be honest. But yeah, if you get like the younger guys, maybe it'd be all day on TikTok. But I mean, for me, yeah, a bit of it's downtime after the race. It is kind of all you want to do is just watch some TV and chill out with your roommate if he's a good guy.
So basically, do not talk about the race all day long, right?
Oh
That
no,
hasn't changed, huh? Bobby, that
no,
hasn't changed really.
no. When I'm in the room, it's the race is done. The race is outside the room.
I'm going to take advantage, asking a rider like you. I used to complain, or I used to have a hard time leaving my family, being based out of Europe for 8 or 9 months a year. You Kiwis and Aussies have it even harder because, I could jump on a flight and be back to New York City or at least on the East Coast in like 8 hours. You'd have to travel basically a whole day. Um, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with being away from your family, your friends, your own bed? Like, what are some tips that you could suggest to these riders coming from your part of the world, from North America, to think about and to maybe have in order before they decide to, be based out of Europe, just sleeping on somebody's couch?
Uh, for me, it's about really investing like in making somewhere feel like a home. Like I I spend a lot of time like really making sure I really feel at home in Andorra, and now I'm at the point where it is almost it is more of a home to me now than New Zealand is. Like when I go to New Zealand, it feels like a holiday almost. But it does take time. Like my first few years here were really tough, actually. Like I would come here, I'd know I'd be here for 8 months, and I'd be counting down like the weeks, like to go back to New Zealand for see my family or see my friends or just to feel like I'm at home again because I just felt like I was on another planet over here. Like you're so far away in a different time zone. Like when I grew up, like in New Zealand, it's not like Europe where you can travel around and maybe you do a school trip to France or something. Like it's different in New Zealand. Like I grew up in Nelson in this small town and maybe went around New Zealand, but that's all you do. You stay there, and then suddenly I got to 17 and I was on the other side of the world. But it was definitely a learning curve and something to get used to. But I think it's such a cool thing for Aussies and Kiwis at the same time. Like like it is throwing yourself in the deep end, but like the experience you get along the way is something that's worth having.
Another difficulty to add to your lifestyle might be you mentioned your girlfriend. She is from New Zealand, I suppose, right? If I
No,
understood
she's
it
from the
right.
UK.
Ah,
She's
she's from the
also a
UK.
cyclist, actually.
Ah, so then it's not that far. I thought, how is
Yeah,
she gonna deal with that? She's also 20,000 miles away from home. Ah, she's
yeah,
from the UK, so then that's a little easier then, I guess.
yeah.
Did she ever come to visit you in New Zealand? How did she
Uh,
like it there?
she was in New Zealand a couple of months ago with me. We went for Christmas, New Year time, or she came just after Christmas. So it was good to kind of show her around. It was her first time there this year, so um, yeah, kind of good to show kind of where I came from because she's never really seen it before. Only seen my home away from home.
Yeah. Well, you won the national time trial championship for New Zealand this year, and you've switched to Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, who actually have one of our ex podcast guests, Dan Bigham, that's working with the sports science department, the aerodynamic department. Have you been able to have any one-on-one time with him looking at your time trial position?
Yeah, we spent a day together in training camp last year in December, and we did this, yeah, track our first kind of track testing together, along with also Johnny Whale. They kind of worked together, um, and that was really good. I think we did like 30 tests or something, so like around 100 Ks on the track of testing in one day. It was actually brutal, like holding this TT position for 100 Ks, and that was, yeah, really insightful. I think we made a lot of gains there, and yeah, really interesting to be there and watching kind of those guys, yeah, do their work, their magic, and finding, yeah, gains in places that, yeah, I didn't know there could be gains. So that's always cool, and yeah, it's something we're constantly working on as well. I think nationals was a good benchmark, but we still know there's room to improve.
Now we talked about your history with teams. You started with the development team from Jumbo-Visma back then to one of the biggest teams with Team UAE, now to another really big team with a big budget. Is there anything within these three big teams where you go, oh, I have never seen that before? Or you go, yeah, it's more or less we train the same, we race the same, because, in the end, the circle is round. You cannot reinvent the circle stays round, right? Or is there anything you go, wow, that is brand new?
I think there's different ways that they work. I think Red Bull and Visma quite similar. I think in the way like everything's very structured, um, and very, yeah, really good kind of like intercommunication between all the departments so that everything's running really smoothly. Like I have contact with so many different support groups in the team, and not that UAE wasn't, but it was a much more kind of relaxed environment, which also, yeah, was really nice to be a part of. Like, kind of, it wasn't. I mean, I was a pretty kind of low role in the team in UAE because they obviously have such a high level of talent there. So I wasn't expecting like all the support in the world, but I think moving to Red Bull, I feel kind of a step up in support and structuredness, which I think is already starting to show through my form. Just to have, yeah, that extra added support around me, and I think it is just, yeah, moving up maybe roles in teams, and yeah, I think with UAE, like it's always, yeah, the question I guess is like, why are they so good? And it is like a hard one because, yeah, I mean, I think one of them is just like the amount of talent that they have is much more than any other team, I think. And I think other teams know, like without the budget of UAE, they have to really focus on every detail to kind of come to that level. And I see that with Red Bull already. Like they're really, this year, I can see they're leaving no stone unturned. Like they're looking into every detail in training and performance, and even, down to hiring new staff that maybe might have more knowledge in certain areas. So I think it's a cool project to be a part of because I feel like it's really going somewhere, and hopefully, yeah, hopefully it pays off.
Yeah, let's talk about that project a little bit, and more specifically, the general manager, Rolf Dank. He's been around the sport for a while. He's run a team for 15 years, different iterations. Now with Red Bull coming on, what is his leadership style like, and what attracted you to that team in the first place over some of the other big teams out there?
Well, I think, yeah, the team in general, it's always a team that I thought was, yeah, quite a cool team to be a part of. Back to like the Sagan era, like when he was on Bora and winning all these races. It already made it then quite like an appealing team, and yeah, one of the kind of goals of the team is to be an attractive team. It's not to be, yeah, the number one team in the world. Obviously, it would be nice, but I think also that comes with the sponsor Red Bull being such a kind of icon in sport. I think it's it's a big goal for the team is to be the most attractive team, and that's kind of a project that I think already in itself sounds pretty cool to be a part of, and it's also the kind of rider I want to be. I want to win races, and I want to win them in a cool fashion. So I think that already attracted me there, and it's the essence of the team. But just like it was for me, it was about getting out of UAE to kind of grow and see where I could find my potential, and seeing that opening up in Bora, and they knew, like they they wanted to grow as well, and they're not at where they want to be, which is one of the top teams. Obviously, they are a very strong team, but last year I think they were down sixth maybe in the ranking, and I think they want to move up, and I can really feel that progression, and that was something I want to be a part of.
That leads me straight into my next question. You got more responsibility, more support as well. Next program will be the classics, and then probably at least one Grand Tour. What are your goals and your dreams for the season, for whatever the other half of it or 2/3 of it?
Definitely. I mean, the initial goal for the season was to win in the World Tour, and I felt like I was already pretty close a couple of times the last couple of months. And I mean, I say winning in the World Tour just to not put a label on a race or something, but just to kind of get my foot in the door in the World Tour, because now I've won in the other levels, but not yet in the World Tour. And I feel like that's something that's maybe the next step before I can kind of go, okay, I want to win, say like Amstel or something, like I think it's about those stepping stones, and winning a stage, say, would have been really nice, and down under or UA, and I think that would have been a good stepping stone. But I think that's definitely still the goal for me, looking towards the next few blocks of races. And I mean, the dream would obviously be to win one of the Ardennes or a stage in a Grand Tour. That might not come this year, but I'm hoping in the next few years that could be a realistic goal for me.
So looking at your upcoming next block of races, Pays Basque, the Ardennes Classics, Tour Romandy, that doesn't give you much chance for the Giro. So is the Tour de France on your program this year?
I mean, the Tour de France is one I think you can never say you're going until maybe 2 weeks before, unless you're one of the favorites. But I mean, it's between. I know it's between the Tour or the Vuelta, and the Vuelta is a lot more like certain because it is the last one. So it's like, okay, if the Tour doesn't work out, then sure, I'll go to the Vuelta. But I mean, the Tour is always a dream for me, and if I could do the Tour, that would definitely be the one I would want to do. But it just depends on the team that the riders that the team want to take. If it's going to be Primo's focused team, or maybe one of the other GC riders, or if it could be even a Sam Welsford focused team, and then they kind of build the riders around that. Because for me, I wouldn't be a leader at a Grand Tour, so it would be which riders I could help, and then say like if it was to be like the Vuelta, it could be opportunities there where I could be a leader in stage wins, say, and that's also something I would love to do also. So I think it could go either way. It could be the Tour or the Vuelta, and this year I would be happy with either, really.
If you, let's say, in the Tour and you got Roglic or Sam Welsford on the wheel, and another New Zealand rider goes, hey, Finn, let me in. There's not many New Zealand riders, so you know them all more or less personally, I would say. What would you do? How do you deal with that? I had it once or twice with Germans. And once I let them in. I said, hey, listen, we went to school together. I let you in one more time. but never again, never even ask me anymore. I got $3 million of salary sitting on my wheel. I cannot let you in one more time, just this one time, because we went to school together. How would you deal with that? Because you were far from home, so you would feel connected to them, but still, you're not in your team.
Yeah, I always look out for the Kiwis because I think it is in Kiwi nature as well. Like, yeah, all the guys kind of look out for each other. There's not many of us, and I mean, obviously, if it was a tense situation and they would, yeah, split me up from my team or something, I would maybe give them an elbow, but I think they would understand that, like if it's, yeah, I think I'm pretty good terms with all the Kiwis, actually really good terms with all the Kiwis. We're all kind of a tight-knit group anyway, so I think everyone knows at the end of the day, racing is racing, but for sure, I always look out for the guys.
For my last question, I'm just curious. You said you've been racing in the World Tour for quite a few years now. Well, for what, this will be your fifth year?
Yeah.
Fifth year. You've won a fair share of races. You've won 5 races, which is pretty good. But what do you put up as your best accomplishment? It doesn't necessarily have to be a win, but like, what is like the result that you're most proud of so far in your young career?
I would say the one I'm most proud of is my first ever win, which is in Sicily, just because of what it meant to me. Because it was my first. It felt like a coming back from my crash, from breaking my leg. It was only 10 months after it, and it was for me that kind of mental block, okay, of like, okay, maybe now I'm better than I was when I crashed. And yeah, that was massive for me because it was just such a big journey to come back from that crash. And yeah, that's probably definitely my proudest moment. Another proud one will be finishing my Grand Tour. I remember crossing the finish line in Madrid in the Vuelta in 2023 and thinking like this was, yeah, a dream of mine, and I did it. So that was also another big one for me.
Finn, it was fantastic to have you as our guest today, tonight, and we wish you all the best for your recovery. And we will keep a close eye on you. And who knows, after you take your first Tour de France stage win later this year, we might ask you again to become a guest of our podcast. Thanks again. It was fascinating to listen to you and the way where you came from and how you made it into the pro scene. Thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me. It was great to meet you guys and chat to you guys as well. So thanks for having me. And yeah, maybe talk again in the future.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. There'll be loads more content popping up here, including more great interviews with top guests like Finn.
And please keep dropping your questions for us in the comments. Check the description below to find us on social media and Patreon to support our channel like these great people.